Hey everyone, and thanks for jumping back into the cryptoverse. Bitcoin has now broken through 20K. Hey everyone, and thanks for jumping. Probably should do a live stream on this. Let me know what you guys think. As we go through, I'm going to post this in a couple different places. All right, how's it going, everyone? I figured we would go ahead and jump in here. Bitcoin is now it's past 20K now, so here we are at 20.7, 20.6, somewhere in that ballpark. But one of the things I wanted to talk about was where this puts us in terms of altcoins moving, because now that we're above 20K, historically speaking, once you get above that prior all-time high, that's when the rest of the market can really start to move. So we're coming on live. Maybe we'll have the effect we normally have when we come on live, and that is to temporarily slow the market back down. But anyways, here we are, and we're just gonna follow, see what happens. So one of the things I wanted to talk about again is that same pattern we've been following for a little while, namely this one, right, going from here to here, and then just overlaying the move at 10K to 20K. We looked at this the other day. So if we were to line these up and zoom in, and again, these patterns aren't tradable or anything, right? Because I mean, the patterns don't always line up. So far, it's still lining up pretty well. So it's just something we want to keep an eye on. Nothing too crazy, but just noting that it is a pretty similar pattern. Pretty similar pattern still. And namely what it was, right? It came up to the top and then back down, back to the top, back down, and then it broke. The third test broke through, right? So the third one broke through just like we did at 10K. And I believe the one at 10K right here, you can see that that was the top. The third test took us to around 10.5, a little less than 10.5, before coming back down. And so far, we are now at around 20.7. So in terms of percentage, right, if going from 10 to 10.5 is basically the same as going from like 20 to 21K in terms of percentage. So just something to keep an eye on. Yes, we're all excited, right? Of course, we're all excited. Bitcoin's above 20K. Who wouldn't be excited? But at the same time, right? Let's just be level-headed and remain level-headed, right? I mean, this is, we would expect Bitcoin to trend up over the next few years, but we also want to remain level-headed and not get too hyped up, right? And we'll see if this pattern continues to play out. I mean, even if it did, right? I mean, even if this pattern didn't play out, it would still be a fairly bullish pattern, right? I mean, going, it would have us going back down, and then breaking it again a few months later. So even if this pattern were to play out, it would still be fairly bullish. Let's take a quick look at Ether. So Ether is now at 622. So Ether is doing quite well right now. But again, we're not here for 622 Ether, of course. We're here for a much higher Ether, right? If we wanted Ether to be 623 and call it a day, then we would have just purchased Bitcoin, considering that it's trended down against Bitcoin from the local top by about 26%. So obviously Ether is, hopefully it has some more juice in it here to take it to much higher. And I mean, you know, we've talked before about, is a $700 ether possible? I certainly think it is, and I mean, you could almost ask yourself, is $1,000 ether possible in the short term? Um, Especially considering that it's, you know, it's what, like 55-60% below its prior all-time high, while Bitcoin is at 20K. This is the nature of the cycle. Bitcoin pumps, people take profits out from Bitcoin, put them into altcoins. It's already an inflated market because people have so much more, you know, USD worth of Bitcoin than they originally started with. So just something to keep in mind when it comes to Ether. So we will want to keep an eye on Ether. Currently at 623, which is basically around the local top. I mean, we had a pump up to 636 back on, you know, back over here in December. This top where we had the candle was actually around 628. And right now we're closer to this candle here, which is around 619. So yes, Ether is doing well, but again, we want to see it do well against Bitcoin, and ultimately that's right. That's what we want to see. And if we do see this move, which we've now entered into the time frame where historically speaking, Ethereum would pump against Bitcoin, at least the beginning phase, because there's out of the 5 years we have data for, again, 3 of them the pump started in January against Bitcoin, right? So 3 of them started in January, and 2 of them started in December. And we're just gonna highlight them again so you guys can see them. So this one started in December as well, and then this one as well. So actually, this one started in January. So this one started January 2nd, and it took us up 533%. And then the other one, the first one, started January 11th and took us up like, you know, 1,600% against Bitcoin or something like that from the right before we blasted off. So we have entered into the time frame, right? So the next 4 to 5 weeks, Ethereum has entered into the historical time frame of when it would theoretically pump against Bitcoin, right? And I mean, as we saw, the stars are aligned. We saw the same thing like we have for the last 5 years, a Q4 bleed of Ether against Bitcoin. Bitcoin is above the 20-week moving average, so that's the second checkbox, right? So, which makes it even more bullish. So Bitcoin's above the 20-week is number one. Number two is Ether bled against Bitcoin in Q4, like we've seen every other Q4. Every other Q4, it has bled against Bitcoin, and now, you know, we look at this and we say, well, there's 3 things, right? There's 3 things that sort of make the stars aligned in some sense, and that is Bitcoin is above the 20-week, Ethereum bled against Bitcoin in Q4, and Bitcoin is above 20K, right? So the stars are aligned for the move to happen. So let's just say, like, if it does happen, which I think most of us expect, if it does happen, I mean, we're going to look back and say, okay, well, this was obvious, right? So if this does happen, I just want people to be aware that it would not have been really out of the ordinary or unexpected. In fact, I would argue that this is the expectation, and if it doesn't happen, then that would be notable, right? I mean, there's no free lunch. I don't know what's going to happen, but I would say I would expect it to go up at this point or sometime over the next, say, 4 weeks. And when I say over the next 4 weeks, I mean I would expect the pump to start in the next 4 weeks, assuming Bitcoin doesn't just absolutely kick the bucket. And so if it does, we'll look back and say, well, that was the path of least resistance, right? That was the path of least resistance, considering historical data, considering historical trends. So we'll see if that continues to play out. So, of course, keep an eye on Ether. Let's zoom out and look at the daily time frame. And we're going to go over to so this is a log scale. Auto this. Let's remove that. And then put on our regression band. So business as usual, right? We know we had a lot of time again to accumulate in the regression band this cycle, and there's a good chance we'll come back down to it. But for now, we are out of it, and it looks like we're moving up, right? It looks like we're moving up, currently at 623. So we're also going to take a look at Link. So we'll go look at Link. So here's Link. It's looking pretty good against USD. If you're on the premium list, which by the way we still are having the holiday sale, so check that out in the description below. You get access to the risk dashboard, the premium Telegram alerts channel, the Telegram chat room, the weekly newsletters, the weekly reports, and a few other things. So check it out. So we'll see if this continues to play out, right? If it continues to move back up, because ultimately Litecoin or Link USD, we'll talk about Litecoin in a minute. I was just looking up here. Link USD is looking good, but again, the Link Bitcoin valuation it has still not turned around, and in fact, it's fairly significantly down, right? I mean, it's from the top, it's down 62%, but we've seen moves like this before of Ether against Bitcoin, right? When you look at Ether, like this move of Ether against Bitcoin was like 81% down. So it's not to say that this is abnormal by any means. It's still perfectly normal, I think. After a major pump, Link pumped. You know, if you follow the premium list again, we DCA'd the sells of Link back into Bitcoin. Now Bitcoin pumped, and you know we've been picking up Link for the last few weeks whenever it goes below 0.5 risk. So again, we're going to keep a close eye on Link because it had a major bubble. It came back down. It's trending up, but it's trending down against Bitcoin. Bitcoin is above its prior all-time high at 20K. If it can hold it and go, if it can hold these levels, then I think Link is going to be back in business. Looking at ADA is also doing quite well. It's at 16 cents. When we started covering it, it was at 2 cents. So keep an eye on ADAs as well. It's at 16 cents. We're going to follow this one to see if we can start moving back up some of this lost ground that we gave up about 3 years ago. So of course everyone wants to know, what about XRP? What about Litecoin? Well, I mean, here we are, right? Here we are. Bitcoin's above 20K. What did I say, right? And we always said, if Bitcoin gets above 20K, and we sort of see the stars align here, then it could be worthwhile, right? And I'm not here to talk about fundamentals with you guys, right? Link or Litecoin or XRP or fundamentals for any coin for that matter. I'm here to make money at the end of the day, and we want to follow the data, we want to follow the trends, and again, historically, when you look at these types of coins, they bleed a lot during bear markets, right? And this is exactly why I've completely sat out of this market. From the top, XRP has bled 89% against Bitcoin, right? 89% against Bitcoin over the last 1,099 days. Okay, it's bled 89% against Bitcoin over the last 1,099 days. Litecoin has bled as well. So let's take it from February of 2018, it has bled 82% against Bitcoin over the last 1,042 days or so. So this is the reason why I've said before, once you reach that new paradigm shift in the market with Bitcoin, these other coins will move. But then you want to get out and you don't want to ride them down for 3 years because there's a time to be in them. There's a time not to be. Most of the time, you could argue it's not to be in them, right? Because 3 years is a long time to go to not really see a turnaround point. Because over the macro scale, Litecoin and XRP have bled against Bitcoin. But now we say, okay, well, I mean, now that I've avoided that, right, we've avoided the 80 to 90% drops against Bitcoin. Now that Bitcoin is potentially in these, completely new territory, maybe it makes sense, right? Maybe it makes sense. And we take a look and say, well, what happened last time, right? I think that's the best thing to look at. Well, the last time, Bitcoin convincingly got above its prior all-time high, Litecoin pumped 616% against Bitcoin. The last time Bitcoin got above its prior all-time high, XRP pumped almost 5,000% against Bitcoin. And so we want to look at this and say, does this move have to happen? No, it does not. I mean, XRP could just whittle away at 50 cents and go lower. Litecoin could go back down to $50, right? These are all certainly possibilities, and we don't want to try to give the impression that we know what's going to happen, because we don't, and that would be a deterministic way to go about looking at the market. And you guys know me, right? I've put out ample videos talking about how I would not buy Litecoin and I would not buy XRP as long as Bitcoin is below the prior all-time high, and I stand by that. However, times change, right? Times can change, and therefore strategies can change. And so now that Bitcoin is above 20K, first of all, so I want to be clear about this. First of all, it does not mean that Bitcoin will stay above 20K. Okay, there's a high probability, a very high probability, that it goes back below 20K at some point. Again, if it follows the fractal that it did at 10K, it would imply that in fact it would go back down below 20K. Okay, that's what it would imply. But I think mentally speaking, the fact that Bitcoin is above 20K and that we've broken that level of this huge mental resistance, I think it can lead to some changes in market behavior in some of the other coins. Now, I would be surprised if we held 20K, right? And we never look back. Like if we hold 20K now and we don't look back, I would be surprised. I'm not going to say it can't happen, but I would certainly be surprised. So with that in mind, right, with the fact that Bitcoin is above 20K, knowing that it's above 20K, and we look, well, historically speaking, this is what happened. And this is one of those times where you just have to say you either stick with the data or you don't, right? And if you stick with the data suggests that starting to move into these markets, right, starting to move into these coins, once Bitcoin gets to these levels, have historically worked out really well, right? I mean, historically, it's been a really good decision. Again, it does not mean it'll be a good decision this time. This is not financial advice, but historically speaking, of course, it has been a good decision. So the thing, of course, that could put this type of a move on hold, right? A Litecoin or an XRP move on hold would be, so sorry, I was just looking at the comments because sometimes I don't really look at them. Yeah, and I get that a lot of people think XRP and Litecoin are trash, but and I'm not gonna dispute it, right? I'm not gonna sit here and say like they're better than Ethereum or anything like that, because I would own way more Bitcoin and Ethereum and Link and ADA. I would own more of those coins than I would of Litecoin and XRP. However, if the data suggests that this is the trend, who am I to argue with the data, right? I don't want to argue with it. I just want to see what happens and then stick with it. Because imagine a scenario where Bitcoin calms down here at 20K and we see XRP and Litecoin start to move up quickly, and then we look back and say, well, the writing was on the wall. I mean, it was literally the exact same thing as last cycle. So that the opportunity was there. It's just whether you take it. And so when we say this, right, there's no guarantee that these coins are going to pump. So the first thing, to keep in mind is that if Bitcoin comes back down, to these levels, during that move, right, during that short-term bleed back down, there's a good chance that the rest of the altcoin market would have a bleed back down as well. But that's not my contention, right? My contention is not I'm buying XRP and I'm buying Litecoin because I think they're going to necessarily pump tomorrow, although they could, right? The contention is that we are above 20K, and we've broken the prior all-time high of the last market cycle. And you only do that once, right? You only do that once each cycle. And, you could argue that we already broke it a few weeks ago, but I always contended, like, let's just call it 20K, because 20K was that mental milestone we need to get past. And now we're past it. And if we go back down to 17K, if we go back down to 16K or something, that doesn't change the fact that we've broken the prior all-time high, right? It does not change the fact that Bitcoin is now at 20K at some point, this year, right? It has hit 20K. So with that in mind, we just want to take a pragmatic look and say, well, are these coins going to necessarily pump tomorrow? No, right? They're not. And in fact, if this does turn out to be a short-term bubble that comes back down, then we will kick the can down the road. So my argument is not that these coins have to pump tomorrow. It's just that I think it's now worth the risk. Okay, it's just that I think now it's worth the risk, because if you subscribe to the mentality that Bitcoin will trend to six figures over the next few years, then I think the long-term outlook for these coins will probably pump with the market, right? So my contention is not that they have to pump tomorrow. My contention is not that Bitcoin will hold 20K in the short term, because there's definitely a good chance that it won't. My only contention is that historically, when we get to this level, it's a good time to start moving into the market. For XRP and Litecoin, it does not mean they're going to pump tomorrow. It just means that it might be worth the risk now. So it might be worth the risk. And if you look at XRP, actually, we actually had a pretty similar move last time, right? We had a first pump here, a retracement back down to the bull market support band for XRP against Bitcoin, and then it pumped again. We've seen a similar thing here, right? A pump above, back down to this support band, which right now is at 2,334 or so. So I think that basically outlines my opinions on XRP and Litecoin. I've completely sat out of these markets for the last 3 years because we know that they trend down against Bitcoin, especially until Bitcoin gets to the prior all-time high. Don't want to take on that risk, right? Who wants to take on that risk? I don't, right? I don't want to take on that risk, knowing that they're just going to trend down against Bitcoin 80 to 90% until Bitcoin gets above its prior all-time high. But with that in mind, here we are. Bitcoin is back above 20K, and we're not saying it's going to hold it. We're just saying maybe it's worth the risk, right? Maybe, and you have to figure out if it's worth the risk for you or not. I can't tell you that. And again, it does not change the fact that while I will purchase these coins, the majority of my portfolio will remain in Bitcoin, then Ether, and so on and so forth, right? Link and then ADA. So just something to keep in mind. I know a lot of people have questions about that, so I want to talk about that. So let me know what questions you guys have. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Let's try to push for 80,000 subscribers. Maybe with the market conditions, we can get to 80,000 subscribers by the end of the year. We're currently at around 70,000, I believe. The last I checked, it was at like 70K. So if you guys like the channel, make sure you subscribe and then give the video a thumbs up. Our like to viewer ratio is absolutely abysmal right now. It's like 250 people out of 1,700. So, okay, Guyen, I will hide you since you want to spam the chat. Okay, we got a lot of spammers here. Yeah, I know. We talked about December 17th. I think in a video a few days ago, because if you look at 3 years ago, right? If you look at 3 years ago, the peak. Sorry, this is not 3 years ago. The peak, the two major candle peaks, December 16th and December 17th, right? So December 16th and December 17th. December 17th was the peak, right? So December 17th was the peak 3 years ago. And then if you go to today, sorry, I don't know where I am. If you look at prices today, we're on December 16th now, right? So it's December 16th now. Tomorrow is December 17th. So again, is that a tradable pattern? Probably not, right? Probably not, because if you look historically speaking, we have come up to the prior all-time high before, and we ultimately break it at some point. But it's just something to keep in mind, right? It's something to keep in mind that this was exactly the same time 3 years ago where Bitcoin peaked, and then following Bitcoin's peak, we saw the altcoin market boom. Also looking at, you know, the pattern that we saw again at 10K, right? And then just overlaying that same pattern, right? I mean, not that it's tradable, I don't think, but same pattern. So again, I would be very shocked if we could stay above 20K and don't come back down below. Doesn't mean it can't happen, but I don't want everyone to, as I said before, right? I said before in a video a week ago, you know, don't schedule your Forbes interview quite yet, right? Because there's no guarantees here, and we just want to stay level-headed. And there's still a long way to go before we get to 100K, right? I mean, there's still a long way to go to get from 20K to 100K, maybe even higher, 150K. It's still a long way to go. So let's take it one step at a time. Right now, we're at 20.7. December 17th, 3 years ago, was the local top, the global top. December 17th is tomorrow. Maybe we'll start to see altcoins take the reins for a little while now that Bitcoin is blasted back above 20K, and we'll take it from there. So let's be a little bit pragmatic about this, okay? And if you are moving into these other markets like, you know, XRP and Litecoin, I would say, you know, just recognize that if Bitcoin does come back down, right? If Bitcoin does come back down, they'll probably have a knee-jerk reaction and come back down as well. But it would not necessarily preclude them from moving up over the weeks following, over the subsequent weeks. Okay, so that's the main point, right? It will not necessarily preclude them from moving up. If Bitcoin does come back down below 20K, we would expect, in fact, XRP, Litecoin, a lot of these coins to drop in the short term, a knee-jerk reaction. However, after that knee-jerk reaction, as long as Bitcoin stays bullish, then they can start to make moves, right? Then they can start to make moves. And again, as we said before, right, historically, Ethereum has not made the move until around this time or as late as early January. So we have time. I think time is on our side, right? I think time is on our side as the days pass by. Time is on our side, especially for these altcoins, as long as Bitcoin's holding these levels. So remember, if you guys like the content, subscribe to the channel. I'm happy to see we have 1,800 people viewing the show, viewing the channel today, and give the video a thumbs up. Let's try to get to 1,000 likes if possible. And remember to check out the holiday sale for the premium list. You can find a link for that in the description below, and you'll get access to the weekly reports, the weekly videos, the risk dashboard, the trading view indicators, the Telegram alert channel, the Telegram chat room. And then next year, so in 2021, we're gonna do public live streams still, but we're gonna start live streams just for the premium list, so I can talk a little bit more candidly about things. This is where Bitcoin is. Let's overlay. Let's go ahead and put on our regression bands. So I'm gonna go ahead and get rid of this one for now. This is just the 20-week SMA stuff. Here are the regression bands for Bitcoin. The bull market support band is, as we know, it's still fairly far down. Currently, the 20-week SMA is at 13.7. 21-week EMA is at 14.5. So they're going to keep moving up, right? They're going to keep moving up, and whenever we do drop, which we will at some point, whenever we do drop, that will be the level to look out for. But I mean, these levels could be at 16K or higher by the time we drop. But those will be the levels to look out for if, in fact, we do drop. So if we were to take a measured move from if we were to take a measured move from the fair value and go up, we can see that in 2019, Bitcoin was as high as 188% over the fair value, right? 188% over it. And if you go to the present day, we are still only 80% above it. So I would still argue that the move in 2019 to 14K is probably was more ahead of schedule than the one we see now at 20K. So Let me know what you guys think. I'll try to answer some questions if you guys have them. Maybe we'll zoom in here. Let's remove these drawings. We're going to zoom into a 5-minute time frame to keep close eyes on what Bitcoin's doing. Let's see where the local top was, so we just know where that is. It looks like the local top was around 20.9. So that is our new all-time high of Bitcoin, 20.9K. That'll be the spot we want to get above. If we get above it, right, we're getting into 21K, 22K. Things can get crazy if something like that were to happen. So. Are we going to have a major correction on the way to 100K? I mean, I guess it depends on what you mean by major. If you mean 80% correction, I don't know, probably not. But if you just mean like 40% correction, almost definitely we'll have 20 to 40% corrections on the way. Yeah, I mean, when someone asks any idea what caused the sudden increase in price, this is the thing that like news channels like to do, right? They'll say they'll just frame it in a different way. Imagine with like the stimulus money, you'll see the headlines that the Dow pumps on hopes of a stimulus, and then the next day, if the Dow drops, it'll say the Dow drops on fears of no stimulus. So, when you talk about the news and you try to assign some very specific news to the current price movement, it's really hard to do so because you can always tweak the way you say it to imply that the market is reacting a very different way than the previous day just because of some tidbit of news. And as I've said before, right, in a bull market, people don't care about bad news. And in a bear market, people don't care about good news. So generally speaking, I don't think the news is that important. I mean, yeah, it's interesting, right? It's interesting to follow the space, but it's just that, you could come out and say, like someone could come out and say something really bad about Bitcoin, like some exchange maybe some exchange gets hacked or something. Most people aren't probably going to care at this point, right? Most people aren't going to care, except for the people that kept their money on the exchange, of course. If you had said that in 2018, negative 20%, right? Negative 20%. I've made jokes before. If someone could have named their dog Bitcoin, and if their dog was in a bad mood that day and they posted it on Twitter, negative 10%, right? It's just that people have, when you're in a bear market, people don't care about the good news, and when you're in a bull market, people don't care about the bad news. And then at some point that changes, and then you just go on, you go on the general market cycle sentiment. Someone says if you can't handle 40% drops, you don't deserve the gains. I mean, it's a decent point, and I mean, I guess to put it in another way, you can't expect something to go up like 50x monotonically, right? You can't just expect it to go up and never retrace, because if you can't handle the volatility, the volatility is not only to the upside, it's also to the downside. So you have to consider that the volatility goes both ways. So when you buy an asset that has the ability to go up, 5x in a year, it also has the ability to dump 80% in a year. What's the next big psychological resistance? I mean, in terms of looking at data, I mean, there's nothing. I mean, it's clear skies, right? It's clear skies ahead, as long as we sustain 20K. This would be getting into price discovery mode. But I think we just need to wait a little while and see if is 20K, is it sustainable here, in Q4 of 2020, or are we going to come back down and kick the can down the road? And at this point, I would like to think that it's going to take a little bit longer, but I mean, I might not, right? I mean, there's always a possibility it sustains it, and if it does, then I think altcoins are set to move. So let's just keep that in mind. Yeah, I mean, of course you can say that like round numbers are the next big obstacles, right? 25K, 30K, 40K, 50K. What's crazy is, on the way up from, if you follow the channel, when we were covering it at like 3K and 4K, and we had these videos like every step of the way where like Bitcoin breaks 6K and then 7K, 8K, 9K, all the way up. and now we're at 20K. But I mean, at some point, you know, once you're at 50K, you know, I mean, like a 10% move at 50K is not nearly as much, right? I mean, a 10% move in terms of, or sorry, at a lower value is not nearly as much. A 10% move at 50K would put it at 55K. So we're probably not gonna be able to cover every 1K pump, just because at some point, you know, the percentage completely changed. And if you guys remember, like we did a video on the halving, saying that, you know, generally what's going to happen is that at some point it's just going to keep going up and up and up. It's going to have corrections. People are going to say, I told you so. It's coming back down to 3K or 5K, but it doesn't, and it's just going to keep going up for a long time, with corrections along the way. Of course, we're going to have corrections along the way. If history is any indication, right? If history is any indication, we will have corrections along the way. But I think, you know, this is, as long as you bought Bitcoin below 20K, you're still on the right side of history in terms of you bought it at before the prior all-time high. And I would still contend, as I always have, that I would not personally buy Bitcoin here, right? I would not. It's not worth the risk to me. But if I did not own any, I would, because I would still contend that the risk of not owning Bitcoin is too high. Right? The risk of not owning it is too high, and it's not a risk that I would want to take on. But I'm coming from it from a biased perspective of accumulating Bitcoin for the last, you know, 2 to 3 years. So when you're looking at accumulating Bitcoin at, you know, at 3K, 4K, up to 10K, up to 12K, and then you see it at 20K, I mean, there's got to be at some point where you try to differentiate the buys and the sells, and so I'm coming from it from a biased perspective, admittedly, because I have been buying it. If you're new to the space, and I imagine a lot of you are, I would personally want to accumulate some Bitcoin, you know, and it doesn't have anything to do with price. Just say, you know, accumulate it regularly, right? Accumulate it regularly for the foreseeable future until you have a stack that you're comfortable with. But if you already have a lot and you don't want to take on too much risk, like if you already have a lot of your net worth in crypto and you don't want to bet the family farm, right? Who wants to bet the family farm? If you don't want to bet the family farm on Bitcoin, then there's got to be at some point you stop buying it and you start to just watch it run, right? Watch it run, watch your calculated risk make huge gains. And though I haven't been buying Bitcoin recently, I mean, I haven't bought Bitcoin since around 12K, I have been buying Ether, right? We've been buying Ether for months now, and this is what I'm hoping. I mean, I'm anticipating Ether to make a sustained move much higher than where it currently is. So we'll see if it pays off. Right now, you know, it's still down against Bitcoin, but this is ultimately what we would want to see, is Ether make the move against Bitcoin. So what other questions do we have? Someone says, can you comment on the Bitcoin weekly RSI status? We can, but I mean, you know, there's not going to be anything to say other than it's oversold or overbought, right? What can you say other than it's overbought when you look at the weekly RSI? Yeah, I mean, what is there to say? I mean, it's just the same thing. It's just the same thing we've said in the past, right? It's very overextended, right? Extremely overextended. You know, going over. This is the. I mean, there were several times, you know, back over here. So this right here was the move to $800. We had a weekly RSI around 85. Here was the one that took us to the prior all-time high. We had an RSI around the same level before coming back down. Here was one again that took us all the way up to 90. You know, and then we had a few others that peaked out at around 80. Here was one at 80. Here was one at 81. Here was one at 83. And here was one at 90. So, I mean, we're right around those levels. So, this is my point, though, right? I mean, like, there's nothing really to say other than it's extremely overbought right now. Extremely overbought. You could have said the same thing a week ago. You could have said the same thing 3 weeks ago. It has not kept Bitcoin from pumping up still. But this is one of those things, right? When you look at things from a risk management point of view, it's not about the return, it's about the risk-adjusted return. So buying Bitcoin now, you know, I don't know. I don't know what the short-term ROI would be if you're playing the long game, right? If you're playing the long game and your game is several years away, then I think you're fine. But if you're looking for a quick flip, then it is still very risky, right, to come in when you see it this overbought, right? I mean, there's a lot of indications that it might turn around soon. But I mean, there were 2 weeks ago too, right? I mean, there were the same indications 2 weeks ago. And if you're again, you put the pattern over, and again, it's not a tradable pattern, but these are very, very similar type moves, right? They're very. Actually, let me get the daily. Sorry, I'm looking at the wrong one. I want to get this one. Right, so I mean, again, it's pretty much the same move that we saw at 10K. And if it does repeat, then it would imply we come back down below 20K, right? That's what it would imply, and it doesn't mean it has to happen. Of course, I'm not saying that. But my point is, right, is people will use the news, or they'll look back in hindsight and say, well, it makes sense, right? You'll say, well, the RSI was at 85. We were up 2x in 2 months. We were basically repeating the same pattern at 10K, at 20, at 20K. 20K is the new 10K. We went above it, back when we first broke 10K. We went. If you look, it literally went up by about the same percentage to the peak, right? So here's let's go back over. Here's 10K, right? So there's 10K, and when we pumped above it, by about 4%. So we went above it by about 4%. And then if you go to the present day and you say, okay, well, where is it now? And you go to 20K, right? If you look at 20K, if in fact 20K is the new 10K, and you look at it and you say, okay, well, what's the move above? It's also right around the same, right? It's about 4%. So far, the move, again, is the same that we saw at 10K, right? So I just want people to be cautious, cautiously optimistic. We all Okay, so I think I'm back. I think I went out for a second, but so again, so I just want people to be cautious as always, right? So can you guys can everyone hear me okay, or is the stream still out? All right, am I gone? I don't know what happens, but it's like every time like we get to like 2,000 viewers, or a lot of viewers, the stream starts to just like give up. Someone says I need to up my internet game. All right, so again, let's just get back to it, right? Let's just quickly get back to it. Make sure you subscribe. Again, subscribe to the channel if you guys like the content. Let's try to get to 80,000 subscribers by the end of the year. We'll see if we can make it happen. But if you're buying Bitcoin at 20.7, 20.8, just know that this was the same local top here after the move from 3,800 up to 10K. This was that third pump, right? So we had 1, 2, 3. We still came back down below. So just be cautious, right? Be cautious. If it does come back down below, I still think things are fine, and altcoins could still do well. but just be cautious if you're betting the family farm here. Yeah, I mean, I think we're still on track for Ether to move against Bitcoin. Someone says, how high would Ether go if it makes the move that we're waiting for? Well, I mean, if it pumps back to the top of this line, so 1, 2, 3, let's say it does it by January or February, it could put the valuation at around 0.05, and if it's around 0.05, then that would put Ether at, and Bitcoin is at, if Bitcoin stays at 20K, well, we know 0.1 would be 1K, so if it goes to 0.05, or sorry, 0.1 would be 2K, if it goes to 0.05, it would be 1K. So I do think that a 1K Ether is on the cards if these levels are held, right? I think 1K Ether is certainly on the cards. So we'll see if that transpires, right? We'll see if a 1,000 Ether is on the cards over the next few weeks. I think that it's possible, right? It is certainly possible, especially if Bitcoin's going to be around 20K. No, I don't think 100K Bitcoin's happening in 2021. Maybe the market will prove me wrong, right? I mean, it's possible. I've been wrong before. My according to my wife, I'm wrong fairly frequently in other things. So we'll see what happens. What is the Ethereum all-time high? It was around 1,400. I only focus on the price. I don't really focus on the fundamentals that much. Yeah, Omer's still banned. I tried to unban him, but I couldn't find him. He even sent me an email. He sent me like a really nice email saying he was sorry and stuff for spamming the chat. And I tried to find him, but I could not find him in the banned people. Yeah, so for those who are new and joining, we did already talk about Litecoin and XRP. Just to reiterate, Bitcoin being at this level does potentially merit the risk, right? It does potentially merit the risk. So I would say finally after 3 years of an 80 to 90% move down of XRP and Litecoin against Bitcoin, for me, now it merits the risk, right? Now it does. But let's just be thankful that over the last 3 years we're not sitting in Litecoin and XRP watching it go down 80 to 90% against Bitcoin. Now I think it merits the risk. Yeah, I don't have tips open because I don't want this to become like I don't want I don't want the tips. Just invest it. If you want to support the channel, you can always join the premium list on the holiday sale in the description below. I'd rather you just buy that if you want more analysis, and if not, then just invest the money, I think. And this is why we also don't run ads, right? We don't run ads on the channel because I don't want you guys seeing those scammy ads that pop up. Though I will say a fair warning to everyone: I do not have AdSense enabled, right? None of that is enabled right now. But YouTube is changing their policies. I don't know if some of you guys saw this. You can quickly Google it if you don't believe me. They're changing their policies. They sent out an email to like every content creator saying that they now like reserve the right to run ads on people's videos that have AdSense disabled. So if you do ever see an ad on my channel, I assure you, I don't want you guys to see them. But I can't do anything. I can't do anything about it if YouTube decides to run ads even against my own desire, right? And you can Google that, right? They send out an email to every content creator saying that. Yeah, a content creator, Sergey, says that he also got the same email. I mean, to be clear, I'm not faulting YouTube for it, right? They're just trying to increase their bottom line. I'm not saying it's necessarily like, I'm not saying that. Basically, I'm not saying anything, right? I'm just saying that if you guys see the ads, it's because they're changing their policy. It's not because I'm changing my desire not to run them. It's just because YouTube's changing their policy, which they have the right to do so, right? It's a centralized platform. It's their platform. They can do with it what they want. Yeah, so some people say there's nothing wrong with running ads. I think there are because there's so many scam ads, and I don't want my audience falling for having to watch that stuff. Let's just see what Bitcoin's doing. So still nothing yet in terms of a sustained move higher or lower. We're still at 20.7. Again, we'll see if the fractal from 10K continues to play out. It's played out pretty well so far. If it does, it would imply going back down below 20K. We'll see what happens though. Someone said, "Can I put some music on my lives?" I tried to do that one time, and it was just very distracting. And then I feel like it does. I'm not really here to entertain. I'm just here to talk about trends and data. So it's too hard for me to focus on stuff if I have music running. Do I think DeFi will take away from XRP, Litecoin, other legacy coins from appreciating as much? It's not necessarily the flavor of the day that'll do it. I think it's just the fact that we know we're going to see diminishing returns. If history is any indication, we're going to see diminishing returns, and I think that will be, just following that pattern will be the reason that the gains are not quite as much as last market cycle. Someone says they have money to invest. What other crypto besides Bitcoin would you invest in? I mean, the coins that I primarily have accumulated over the last 2 years have been Bitcoin, Ethereum, Link, and ADA. And then the other main one that I started accumulating recently was Polkadot. And I started accumulating that a few months ago. Now, you could maybe XRP and Litecoin. But if I didn't own any crypto, I certainly wouldn't start with XRP and Litecoin. I would first get positions in the other coins first. Yeah, of course I have Ethereum. I have a lot of Ethereum. Oh, someone says they want thoughts on XMR. I think it's doing quite well. I mean, I haven't, yeah, it is. I haven't looked at it in a day or so, but I mean, you can see it's still doing pretty well. So I don't really have much to say on it other than it's continuing the same trend, right? It's 156. I expect it to continue to go up over the next few years. I think Monero will do quite well. So it's actually a pretty similar W pattern that we saw with Ether too, right? Maybe we can switch it over to monthly 2-month candles. It's a pretty similar pattern as Ethereum. The nice W pattern. Yeah, in terms of privacy coins, I feel like I would personally start with Monero, right? If you're gonna go the privacy coin route, you might as well start with Monero. They're not all W patterns. There's a lot of coins that have not recovered. There's definitely coins that have not recovered. Any thoughts on ADA ETH? Whoa, not sure what all this is. Okay. Yeah, this is ADA ETH. It's still pretty undervalued against Ethereum, right now. So that's all we've seen so far. We're in the middle of maybe a fourth one, right? We'll see what happens. But yeah, I do hold ADA. I do hold ADA as a hedge against Ethereum. If we put on the support, the bull market, so this is the this is our ADA Ether bull market support. You can see we're below it against Ether. So, I mean, ideally speaking, we would want to see ADA get above this level, right? When it gets above it, it can really start to make a move. But if it keep getting rejected down, I don't. It's probably not going to make a huge move against Ether. We need to clear this, I think. Yeah, the tax situation with crypto can be pretty complicated. I mean, I have a CPA, so I would recommend, I mean, that's one option. One thing that I want to caution people about, and I'll say this now because the same thing happened 3 years ago. If the same thing plays out, and if you're new here, you really need to listen to this. Okay, if you bought Bitcoin at like 4K and you end up selling a lot of it at 20K, and then you start putting it into altcoins in 2018, and then those altcoins go to zero, I'm not a CPA, so do your own, figure out your own advice, but you still owe taxes on the gains from the prior year. So just make sure if you do take profits on anything, make sure you can cover the taxes on it, because a lot of people sold Bitcoin in 2017, then speculated on altcoins in 2018, and had a really hard time paying their taxes because they owed taxes in 2017, but then they lost all the money they would have used to pay the taxes in 2018. So just keep that in the back of your mind. I don't really see Litecoin going to 5K. I mean, maybe at some point in the very distant future, but I'd have a hard time believing it. Maybe it can get up to 1K this cycle. I don't know. How much are taxes? Well, it depends on where you live. It depends on your income level. It depends on how long you've been holding them. I can't tell you. It's your own situation. And yes, you can trade within the confines of an IRA. I don't have any insight on ING engine. Someone said, can they pay their taxes in Ripple? Yeah, I mean, I don't think so. It was actually kind of funny because for the last like year, people would sometimes pay for the premium list. They'd pay for it in like Litecoin or XRP, and they would be like, "Hey, can I pay for it in Litecoin?" I'd be like, "Yeah, sure. I like selling that." Maybe I wouldn't sell it now though. All right, Sarvish, we will get rid of you since you're spamming the chat. Sorry, I'm just trying to keep up with the comments because there's a lot. Someone said, "What is this?" All it is, it's the bar pattern. It's the bar pattern leading up to 10K. So it's just this pattern overlaid on this one. Not that it means much of anything, but I just want people to be aware that we've seen these types of moves before. All right, Fahad, I will have to remove you now from the channel since you want to spam it. Yeah, maybe I'll have to put slow mode on it a little bit. Yeah, let me go ahead and put slow mode on because it's getting out of hand. Alright, we're on slow mode now, so I think you can only type like once every minute. Or you can only send a message once every minute. Remember to subscribe to the channel and give the video a thumbs up. Let's get to 1,000 likes. We're currently at 841. So if you guys like the content, please subscribe. And also click the bell icon to turn on notifications. Yeah, I know you guys can probably hear my 2-month-old crying. Again, they don't like it too much when I talk about XRP and Litecoin, especially when I talk about potentially buying them. That's going to get them really upset. Yeah, we're getting a lot of the same questions, right? I mean, now people that joined early are probably getting bored because we're just talking about the same thing. But if you're new, we talked about Link, right? Yeah, it's trending up against USD. It's doing quite well. You know, as I showed on the premium list, again, you can find the holiday sale for that in the description below. These are where I bought, right? At 0.5 Link USD risk, and we'll see what happens, right? We'll see if we can continue to move up. But even this trend right here is not that exciting, mainly because the Link Bitcoin valuation has trended down. And actually, I mean, if we draw like a line, right? It's a pretty. I guess let me remove all the drawings. And we're just going to go and maybe connect that wick to that wick. Yeah, I don't know. See, this is the thing with drawing lines, is you can easily adjust them to fill whatever narrative you want, but... So if we were to come back up to the top, maybe it would be like a $18 link or something. Someone says, congratulations on getting a kid. I have 3 kids. One's 4, one's 1, and one's 2 months. What is the average age of viewers on the channel? So most of the channel are males between the ages of like 18 and 35, I think. And then there's some going up, and then there's like definitely between like 18 and 35, and there's also a pretty large category up to 45. But this the channel is 95% male, 95%, 5% female. Well, the 1-year-old's actually like 20 months or so, or so. He's not 1. He's like 20 months old. So, like, I mean, statistically speaking, right? Statistically speaking, if approximately, which is what YouTube tells me, if there's 5% that are women, and we have 1,877 people on, then that means there's around 94 women watching out of like the 1,900 people. So there's not very, very many. So I think the demographic, I think the main demographic here are, it's like, males between the ages of 18 to like maybe 45 or so. 18 to 45 is probably like 70 or 80% of the viewers. Yeah, I think it's just skewed because I don't know. I guess people don't. There's a lot of people that don't like tuning in to listen to me ramble about data all the time. No, my wife is not interested in crypto. Yeah, I know the options expire, but I don't really pay too much attention to that, honestly. Yeah, of course I hold stocks. I hold more stocks than crypto. Someone wants me to say my intro on live stream. Welcome back into the cryptoverse. No, my wife is not into crypto. She's into she actually just got her doctorate like 4 or 5 days ago. She just got her doctorate. No, we do stock analysis on the channel. You can find it. We did one in March when it crashed and showed the risk level at 0.29 and said, this is about as low as it gets. Like, it's a great time to buy. Oh, if you guys want to join the chat room, we have a Telegram chat room. So I will put it in the chat. So if you guys want to check that out, check out the public Telegram chat room. We have over 10,000 people, so if you're looking for a place to go and talk about crypto, you can check out that chat room. Blazin' Mark says a doctor is one who finishes medical school. I mean, you can get doctorates in a lot of different fields, right? I mean, PhDs, it's like 5 years of very 5 years of very hard work. I have a PhD. My PhD is in nuclear engineering, um, but you guys, I mean, yeah, I mean, I don't really think it. But I think saying things like like what you're saying is that you're only a doctor if you're an MD. I think is completely false. Yeah, I do hold some precious metals. Pedro says he's an engineer. What indicators do I use? I mainly use the 20-week at the bull market support band for Bitcoin during a bull market, right? So that would be uh, this one, and all it is, it's just the 20-week SMA and the 21-week EMA. This should help us ideally try to identify drops whenever we do correct, right? To figure out where we might go. So I use this one. I use this one, this logarithmic regression band for Bitcoin to try to identify the key times to move in the market, right? Main time to move in, main time to move in, right? And here too. And then I'll try to also identify the key times to start really, making sure that you have an exit plan if you don't already have one, right? And I mean, I already have my plans, right? I already stick to them, but that's another one. And then also we have the regression rainbow as well. So, and just kind of identifying that we've had this was our accumulation phase last cycle in this band, and then so far we've been in this band a lot this cycle as well. The prior cycle we were up one band, so that was the accumulation there, and then the prior cycle before that we were in the same one more or less, so right there. So I use these, and then I also use the risk levels that I have on the premium list. Again, you can find a link to that in the in the description below. I guess we'll just run the sell for a little bit longer since everyone seems to. The market's like exploding right now, but I'll put it in the comments. There's also a lifetime option if you guys want that. You can find that in the comments or in the description as well. So what do you guys think? What do you guys think? Do you think Bitcoin is going to explode upwards to like 25K? Or do you think that we're going to see this same pattern play out where we don't necessarily get bearish, but it might just be a little too soon? Right? So like, do you think that same pattern is going to play out? Or do you think we're just going to crash back to the 20-week? Because so far, this pattern has been pretty spot on, right? Up to the top, back down, and then having the third major move to the top kind of break through. Do you think this is going to happen, right? Do you think we're going to come back below 20K and go sideways for a bit? Do you think Bitcoin is just going to not look back and keep rallying? Or do you think we are heading back down to this support band whenever wherever we get to it? Seems like most people think we're going to go back below 20K. I don't think, I think it's way too soon to know if this is a sustainable 20K. I mean, if we're above 20K and then we go back down and test the 20-week moving average, it's also above 20K, then yeah, like maybe at that point we could say, okay, this might be sustainable. But the very first move above 20K, I don't think any reason to necessarily think it's sustainable. But it doesn't mean it's not, right? I mean, we're not going to say it's not sustainable. But I mean, obviously, I think time is on our side either way. The support band right now is still pretty far down. It's at the 20-week SMA is at 13.7 or so. on the weekly, and then the 21-week EMA is at 14.5. I don't know how many Bitcoins have been lost on wallets, no, I have no idea. Not off the top of my head. I mean, I'm sure it's something you could probably get a reasonable estimation by Googling it and stuff. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you like the content and give the video a thumbs up. Let's get to 1,000 likes. Someone says lump sum or DCA into XRP and Litecoin. I mean, maybe you could do like a little bit more than like a weekly DCA, but probably a lot more. But I mean, I still think it'd be worth trying to continue to DCA it in case it drops back down. Because if Bitcoin drops back down to like 18 or 19K, you know, XRP and Litecoin will have knee-jerk reactions to that drop. It doesn't mean they can't recover, but they will likely have knee-jerk reactions to that type of a drop if it were to occur. So going all in is not typically something I would do. But I mean, you could always lump sum and then DCA. Someone says Investopedia has a link to a study that states 20% of all Bitcoin is irrecoverable. When I take profits on alts, do I take it into fiat or into Bitcoin? Altcoin profits usually either go to Bitcoin or Ethereum, and then I take profits out of Bitcoin or Ethereum back into fiat. No, I mean I don't recommend any type of leverage trading. I don't know if a dip is coming or not. I don't think it's worth risking your precious crypto in general, like trying to short or long the market, because if let's say you risk a Bitcoin and then that gets liquidated, that's potentially a future $100,000 to $200,000 in this market cycle. So none of this is meant to be used to leverage trade. That's for sure. Someone said Bitcoin's crashing hard. I don't think so. It's at 20.6, right? Imagine someone yesterday if they had said, yeah, Bitcoin's crashing, the price is 20.6K. You're like, what the hell are you talking about? Could I look into Ether Bitcoin? I probably spend like 40% of my channel looking at Ether Bitcoin. Come on, this is one of the main things we look at. We already talked about Monero earlier. Maybe we'll switch this over to a 5-minute chart and see what's going on. Since some of you guys are freaking out over a potential dump. So yeah, we're at 20.6. Someone says, what's the minimum required IQ to start day trading crypto? Probably not that high. And I would argue that the higher IQ you have, the more likely you are to not day trade crypto, because you realize that it's a random walk and it's really hard to trade on a day-to-day basis. I don't know why I'm like fascinated by this pattern, but I just want to see if it plays out. Or if it remotely resembles it, right? And so far it seems like it has. Best investment other than crypto? Tesla's been pretty good this year. This is Bitcoin USD. No, I'm not running any nodes. Someone asked me, sorry, maybe I should say some of the questions so you guys know what I'm answering. Yeah, we've been going for almost an hour and a half. We'll probably need to call it soon. Remember to check out the Telegram channel. We have the Telegram channel. You can find a link to that here in the comments. And also remember, you can check out the holiday sale for the premium list if you want access to the weekly reports, the videos, and you get access to all the prior ones too. And the risk dashboard, the Telegram alerts channel, and the Telegram chat room. Things could get crazy here with altcoins if Bitcoin, if this is for real, and we start to maintain these levels. All right, should we call it? I feel like it's probably time to call it. I'll put the link to the Telegram chat again in the comments, so you guys can join if you want. All right, let's call it. Maybe we'll hop back on later today if the market is moving again. But right now, it looks like we did our duty and killed the pump. So business as usual. Thank you guys for tuning in. If you guys like the content, please subscribe to the channel. Give the video a thumbs up. Turn on the alerts if you want to be notified of future videos. And I will see you guys next time. Bye.